Thanks for downloading Pave the Way Podcast. On this show, your host, Greg Helbeck, interviews the top minds in real estate, business, and personal development to help you crack the code so you can grow your business and, more importantly, grow your life. Get ready for another game-changing episode. If you want to learn how to master your day and become a productivity monster, download Greg's free guide on daily personal productivity for free at www.pavetheday.com. That's Pave the Day, spelled DAY.com. Now it's time for today's episode. Enjoy.
All right, welcome back to the show. I'm here with my good friend, David Dodge. Just got back from a good old Multipliers event in Omaha, Nebraska. Saw this on my calendar, and I was like, yes, we're doing part two with the one and only David Dodge.
Part two.
Yeah, dude. Love it. Love it. I'm excited to talk about the rentals today because that's been something that a lot of people have been reaching out to me about. You are an expert with rentals and BRRRRs, and I'm fairly new with that now. I'm starting to do more of them. I just bought another 4 units last week. So
congrats, 4 units.
Man. Yeah, well, it's a commercial. There's a retail store and 3 apartments.
Sounds like an awesome deal.
It's an awesome deal if the retail space rents. If the retail space doesn't rent, I'm putting it right on the market to sell.
Well, you could always have, Greg Enterprises downstairs.
Yeah, I could.
Is it a big space?
It's interesting. It is a decent sized retail space. It could be an office, but it's more of like a gift shop kind of. It's in like an intersection. It's interesting. I was thinking about making an Airbnb and having the retail space be like a rec room. So I reached out to an Airbnb manager and I was like, hey, like, what could this thing rent for? Because if I can get like double the rent on an Airbnb and then have like a pool table and shit, like in the one office space, I don't know. It's an interesting building, but it's old. So it's an old building and I'm excited. We're renovating it right now. So we got the contractors there. The retail space is on the market. So I'm excited, man. I was a little nervous.
I'm excited for you.
I'll be honest. I got out of my comfort zone. I've never bought a mixed use. Like I'm just like, fuck it. Let's do it. Like, let's buy the house or buy the building. So I was a little scared, but
you'll be just fine, Greg. You're a go-getter, bro. That's all that matters. You'll figure it out. Lease it out to somebody, and if you have trouble leasing it out, then pivot. Like you said, you've already got a couple other options, and exits for it. So I'm sure you'll do just fine.
Yeah. Man. Yeah. You know what, man? I was like laser targeted. I'm like, I'm buying my first small commercial property come hell or high water in 2021. And I said, I'm going to fucking do whatever it takes to do it. Did a bunch of marketing, got a deal, locked it up, went through the process, and bam, now I got one. So, you know what I mean?
Congrats, man. That's awesome.
Love
it.
Yeah.
Love it. That's great.
Well, listen, David, I really look up to you when it comes to the BRRRR property, because that whole concept is something that I never even knew about, even 2.5 years ago. I was like, it blew my mind that you could basically do this. So before we get into some nitty gritty on the rental side, because I got some personal questions for you, because I've made some fucking big mistakes on the rentals so far, like huge mistakes, and I'm paying for them now. Just give the listeners a little bit about your background. If they haven't heard the first show, they can go back and listen, but just give them like quick, commercial on who David Dodge is.
Yeah, sure. So I'll try to keep this short, man. I can talk forever. So basically I'm 36 years old. I live in St. Louis, Missouri. And I started investing in real estate when I was 21 years old. I started house hacking. That was kind of my in to real estate. And long story short, I have been investing in real estate ever since. So, I'm 36, 21. That's about 15, really closer to 16 years. The first 10 years, guys, I did it wrong. I was only buying about 1 property a year, give or take. After 10 years, I think I had 12 rental properties. So, I wasn't bad, obviously. Had some properties, but the reason I say I did it wrong, Greg, is because I was buying them off the MLS. I was paying full retail. I was getting an agent, and the agent would show me properties, and they were rentals. I wasn't buying fix and flips. I wasn't doing any wholesaling. In fact, I didn't even know about wholesaling, right? And again, I was, and really, let's be honest. Like for me, I am terrible at saving money. Always have been. Probably always will be. And that's okay. I know my faults, right? So rental properties to me were like a place to park it. So I didn't have it in my checking account, because if it's in my checking account, it's going to be spent. And to this day, I typically don't even ever have more than like $4 or $5 grand in my checking account, because of the fact that if it's there, it's going to be gone. So what I like to do is I like to park it. And, and now that I have business partners and businesses, we have other places to park money. Of course, I have access to capital. I'm not poor or broke by any means, but I just don't like having it in my checking account, because I will spend it, man. It's going to be gone. So again, the first, couple, 10 years, let's say, once I would save up, 15, 20 grand, which would just be like crazy to me, because it would just get spent. If not, I would say, hey, I need to get another rental. And again, long story short, I would go find rentals on the market, MLS, full retail, and I'd go get a conventional loan, which basically requires, 20% down. And I would just park it there. And it was just kind of a way and a vehicle for me to save, because I'm just not a saver. But what I could do is I could save up to 20%, or even maybe half or 3/4 of the 20%, and then get a loan from, my family or something like that for the remaining balance, and then pay them back. I'm really good at paying debts off, but I'm not really good at saving. So it was just a way for me to save indirectly and invest all at the same time. So speed it up. I don't want to bore everybody here. 6 years ago, I learned about wholesaling, and I learned, I guess more importantly, about like direct to seller marketing.
Yeah, which is the key.
And really the main thing was I learned that there was these people out there that were that could be, and are motivated to sell a property. And therefore, because they're motivated, you could get deep discounts. So the first 10 years I paid full retail. The last 6 years, I have not paid full retail for a property since. And, since then, Greg, I've flipped probably 600 or 700 houses. That's give or take in the last 6 years. So that's kind of my background. Now that I know about motivated sellers and direct to seller marketing, I will never pay retail again. And anybody that's listening to this podcast, I encourage you to learn wholesaling, even if you don't want to be a wholesaler. The reason I say that is wholesaling isn't really a real estate investing business. And some people may think I'm crazy when I say that. And it took me probably 2 full years, once I went full-time 6 years ago, to learn that. Wholesaling is really a marketing business. That's really the name of the game. It's marketing. But the cool thing is once you learn marketing and you learn direct to seller marketing, and then you stumble across or find a motivated seller that's willing to give you a deep discount on a property in exchange for you, helping them, solving problems, giving them convenience. Well, at that point, you can then go do anything you want. So even if you don't want to be a wholesaler, learn wholesaling. I really highly encourage all the listeners and viewers to take that mindset, because if you want to be a fix and flipper, or you want to be a landlord, or you want to do any other thing, creative finance, doesn't matter. You make your money when you buy. You get paid when you sell, period.
100%.
Period.
Hope everyone just rewinds that. That's so golden, man.
I'm going to say it again. You make your money when you buy, guys and girls. You get paid when you sell. So if you are not making your money when you buy, meaning buying it at a discount, it's very difficult to to make a good profit in real estate. That's the name of the game. Like if you are paying full retail, it's a long game. If you're a landlord, you can't wholesale. It doesn't work that way, because you got to buy great and sell good. So if you're not getting even a good deal, you can't wholesale. And if you're a fix and flipper, there's only so much value you can add to a property by the rehab alone. Yeah. Can you pay retail for a property that needs work? Retail is obviously,
minus
sliding scale depending on the quality of the property, but it's very difficult to make a huge profit, or like a really good profit, by just the rehab alone. If you were able to buy at a discount, Greg, which you obviously know all about, but some of the listeners and the viewers, may not. But if you're able to buy at a discount, you can basically reduce your risk down to zero, right? So I've only lost money on 2 deals in my entire life, maybe 3. I think it's 2. But either way, even if it is 3, the reason of those 2, maybe 3 deals was because I didn't get them at a deep enough discount. I basically paid, retail or close to retail. And because of that, I ended up losing money. But every property that I buy at, 60, 70 cents on the dollar, even if I screw up the rehab and spend twice what I want to spend,
still make money on it.
And even if I list it and I don't get near the listing price, I still will make money, or at least break even. So it's kind of funny, because the way I look at, when I go to buy a property these days is am I buying it at a big enough discount where I could, basically screw up every possible way and still break even? That's kind of how I look at it these days. I don't look at it like, oh, can I make 50 or 80 grand? It's like, did I get it cheap enough to where, if I had a heart attack and was in the hospital for 18 months, and then I just wanted to sell it without doing anything to it, could I still break even on it? And if I get it, and that's kind of how I look at my offers these days. So
that is so true, man. And that is such a good point that the listeners need to make sure they embrace, because if you get good at finding deals, you're going to make money forever.
Forever.
That's more valuable. That skill set is the most valuable thing you could have.
Absolutely.
The ability to find deals.
Absolutely. You make your money when you buy. And another way to look at it is you can actually, limit or reduce your risks.
Yes.
By, if you're buying at a big enough discount, if somebody
100%.
brings me I'm telling you, if somebody brings me a $10 million, portfolio of properties, but they're willing to sell it to me at 60 or 70 cents on the dollar, I'm in. Let's go. Because I've reduced the risk for me to lose on that deal, 100%. So it doesn't matter if it's a $50,000 house or a $10 million, portfolio of properties. The fundamentals are the same.
Totally. No, that's a great, I'm glad you set the stage with that. So you mentioned,
I did my best to keep that short.
That was great. You're great to have as a guest. It's so easy to do these shows. You mentioned you don't need to necessarily be a wholesaler, but you need to learn how to wholesale. So
wholesaling isn't a real estate business, guys. It's a marketing business.
Sales. It's sales.
So, another way to word it is learn direct to seller marketing. Like if you don't want to be a wholesaler, that's fine. But I just say learn wholesaling because, that's basically the business of wholesaling is, buying deep discounts.
Like massive.
Massive, right. And if you can learn that simple, it's so simple, really. It's not necessarily easy.
I
want to lead with that. It's not necessarily easy. In fact, it can be very difficult.
It's hard. I found wholesaling to be very hard compared to
it is. Yeah, but it's simple though. Hard, easy and simple are two different things, right? So if you can learn the simple approaches to direct to seller marketing and how to go get control of properties, at deep discounts, you are going to be just fine. And then again, you can choose your exit. The marketing is just the way to get into the deal. The money's made when you buy, but but you get paid, like you collect it on the exit. So you can choose any exit you like as long as you're able to go get a good deal.
Totally. 100% agree with you there. That's golden advice. And I hope the listeners seriously take that to heart and apply it. So the thing you've been known for, you actually have the book. It's actually in California in storage right now, the Burr book.
The Burr method.
That is something that you've been doing. And I remember we were in Omaha and you said, I don't get into real estate to wholesale. I get in real estate to buy rentals, and then I wholesale sometimes after the fact. So
keep the best, wholesale the rest. That's the motto.
Best, wholesale the rest. You got to get that on a t-shirt, dude.
I know. Keep the best, wholesale the rest. That's the name of the game.
Dude, that's so true. So when it comes to the Burr, I'll tell you what, I discovered this Burr thing, learned about it from you, learned about it from some other guys, Bigger Pockets and all that. I went out and did a Burr deal, and then I got some other ones now. But I'll tell you one thing, David. I know what I'm good at, and I know what I'm not good at. And I am not good at dealing with tenants. So I'm just asking you selfishly, how do you separate yourself from tenants? Because to be honest, every time they're calling me, I am drained and spent. And I'll tell you what, I didn't select these tenants. I bought these smoking hot deals, and I inherited bad tenants. And they have been an absolute nightmare. It's been like D-Day with these tenants, man. It's I don't know. Have you had to go through that? I mean, because I'm just this is how rentals are. I don't know.
The short answer is I hired a property management company to help.
Okay.
I mean, that's the short answer. So, like I was saying, the first 10 years I did it wrong, but at the same time, I was still investing. It was a great thing. I'm so happy that I did that, of course. And I was doing all the management myself. And, property management is a whole different beast, especially if you want to scale. If you want to scale your landlording business or your investing business, in general, I don't recommend people try to do both per se. Now, I know there's a lot of landlords out there that own property management companies, and that's a different story. That's a whole different business that you're essentially adding, and you're probably managing not only for yourself, but for other people too. Right. And that's a different story. Right. But for me, landlording has never really been, it's never really been something that I'm particularly good at. What I look at myself as being good at is finding the deals.
Same here. And the money.
Getting deep discounts, getting them rehabbed, and then handing them over. So the way I like to look at it, Greg, is I am in the property business and my property manager's in the people business. You know, in the past, I have been, I'm just, you know, I don't want to like sit here and like, you know, say the wrong things, of course, but like, I'm too nice. I'm overly nice to people.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So like when a tenant says, oh, you know, this is broken or this is broken, like I'm going to immediately just go fix those things. And I probably won't even charge them for it. And that's not good business, right? Like, like the definition of business is the act of making money.
Yes.
That's literally the definition of business. It's the act of making money, making profits. So I've never really been that good at dealing with the people because I'm just too nice. And, you know, maybe about 4 years ago, Greg, I hired a property manager. It didn't work out. I hired another property manager. It didn't work out. I've probably been through 6 or 7 at this point.
Oh man. What was the issues with the property management? Just as a, like, what was the big root cause?
Lots of reasons, man. I mean, nobody is going to treat the property like you, of course. You know, property management businesses are for-profit businesses. They're businesses, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, they want to nickel and dime you. And, you know, it's just difficult. It's just very difficult, you know. So, you know, after going through 6 or 7 bad property managers, I finally found a good one. And I've been with this current one for, you know, maybe 3 years at this point. And it's a small operation. He doesn't manage, you know, thousands of units. In fact, I think he maybe only has maybe 300 units total. So about 50 are mine. So I'm a pretty big slice of the pie in terms of, you know, his clientele.
Yeah.
And he has 1 full-time assistant and 1 part-time. So he's a smaller operation. Some of the previous landlord or property management companies, you know, had a very small number of units, like maybe 20 or 30, and they didn't have their shit together.
Yeah. They had the infrastructure.
And then some of the other ones I had were, you know, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 units, and they were spread too thin. So my advice would be find somebody that's got a happy medium of, you know, at least 50 to 100 units and no more than 500 units. The reason being is because they're not going to be spread too thin, but then again, they're going to have enough units and enough clientele to actually have enough profit to put in place the proper systems and processes, right? That's so incredibly important, having the right systems and processes. So yeah, I mean, lately, like the last, you know, I'd say, I don't know, guessing here, 3-4 years, probably 3 years. The current property manager has been phenomenal, and I worked out a really good deal with him. So typically property management companies, Greg, they're going to charge anywhere from 8 to 12%.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, you know, and this is going to vary, I think, from city to city, but here in my market, you know, according to my current property manager, and we used to own an in-house property manager for a little while, and we hired a girl, and that didn't work out either. So I've failed so many times, guys. Incredibly, you know, I learned an incredible amount of lessons the hard way, but those are the best lessons, right?
Same.
Yeah, for the most part, forget where I was going with that. Oh, the majority of a property management's profits don't come from the 8 or 10 or 12% that they charge. It's typically, they typically now this isn't revenue, this is profits, right? The profits, you know, typically about half, give or take, comes from the markup of their services. So like whenever they're doing maintenance or they're doing leasing or, you know, anything and everything, like, you know, maintenance is huge turnovers, right? You know, they could maybe turn the unit over for 600, but they charge you $2,000, right? So they make a lot of their profits on the actual markup of services. The monthly percentage, you know, creates a lot of revenue for them, but it's not necessarily super profitable for them. So what I was able to do with my current property manager is I was able to stick to what I said earlier. I want you to be the people side of the business, and I want to be the property side of the business. So, you know, I pay my property manager 8%, which is on the low side, which is great.
Yeah.
But don't let the percentages fool you guys. I mean, you know, paying a shitty property manager 8%, you're going to be way worse off than paying a great property manager 12%, right? So the percentages, you know, don't get hung up on those. But what I basically worked out with my property manager was, hey, I'll pay you 8% of all the gross revenues that come in. And I'll even let you keep the entire first month when you lease a property as your leasing fee. And I think he only charges his other customers like 75%. And I said, hey, I'll give you the whole month, right? That's the cost for you to go lease the property. But in exchange for that, anytime there's maintenance or turnovers, whenever those tenants call you and that, you submit a ticket in your system, the ticket comes to me.
And you do the rehab. And
then we send one of our guys out to do the maintenance. We send one of our guys out, or, maybe even a team, right, to do the turnovers. So, a maintenance call for me is usually a $50 fee I basically pay one of my guys $50 flat rate just to go. And then it's like 15, 18, maybe $20 an hour. Right. Yeah. So, I mean, if they're there for 3 hours, it's 80, $90, $100, right? Whereas if the property manager, he'd charge you $70, $80, maybe $100, one-time fee. And then he would charge, and then he would have to then mark up that $20 an hour person to 30, and you end up paying $180 or $200.
Yeah. You double it.
You double it. Sometimes you can even triple it, right? Depending on if there's a lot of time involved. So for the most part, that's our agreement. I pay him a little more, on the leasing side. I got a pretty good rate in terms of the monthly, the monthly percentage that I pay him, but all the turns, all the maintenance, all the regular, CapEx or just anything that's wrong with the property, it comes to me. It's
yours.
Yeah, it comes to me. And then the people problems, they go to him. So we basically just kind of divided it like that. And I would highly recommend, anybody that, can do it that way, to do it that way. Now, they may not want to do that, and that's okay. You can tell them that that's the only way they're going to gain your business. And in exchange for that, if they do charge you, 10% or 12% instead of, 8, it's still worth it to pay them a higher percentage if you can control the costs when it comes to maintenance and turns.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the game changer in my book. So yeah, the way I look at it, Greg, I'm the property guy and he's the people guy. And we draw a very thick red line in between the two.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, he's the people guy. Now, do you have the final say on the tenant, or do you have him do the entire tenant process?
I don't want anything to do with the tenant. I don't
you don't even know who's in there.
The tenant. I don't even want to meet the tenant. I don't want to talk to the tenant. I'm too nice. I'll give them free rent and I won't charge them late fees, and I'll fix stuff that doesn't need to be fixed.
But do you make the decision on the tenant, or does he make the decision?
It's up to him completely. Now, he does do though is, and that's a great question though, Greg, because if he's just trying to get somebody to sign the lease and pay,
that's what I'm saying. How does he not
paid? Yeah. So that's I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
And
ask me how I know.
Yeah. Ask me how I know. Right. So what he does do though is, if the tenant, stops paying, or just, there's a couple of different things that could happen. Right. But if the tenant stop, and I don't know the exact agreement we have, but I'm going to kind of guess on what it is, because we don't really have too many problems, to be honest. But, if the tenant, has to be evicted or stops paying or ends up being a lousy tenant, I think it's either 8 or 10 months. I can't remember our exact agreement, but he will not charge us to release it.
Oh, if he puts a dog in there.
Yeah. Basically. Yeah. So if the tenant's there for, the full term and they move out, boom, go for it. We'll pay you the full month.
Yeah.
If they are there for 15 or 18 or 4 years, right? 15, 18 months or 4 years, and they're month to month after the first year or whatever. And then they're gone, boom, you get the full month. But if they move out, or something bad happens, I think it's 8 months. Within the first 8 months, then he will release at no additional charge.
That's fair.
It's fair. And that's right.
That's
right. It's absolutely fair. And the reason I think we did it at 8 months is because, bad shit happens.
Yeah.
People lose their jobs and they get divorced and just stuff happens. And I don't want to punish him if they don't make it a whole year, because, it's not necessarily his fault. But 8 months was kind of a happy medium. Like, you should be able to at least be able to get somebody in for 8 months, depending on, their credit and, their job and, what all the things that he does to basically vet that tenant, and he uses Buildium, I believe. So he's using, professional property management software, and, he has a small team. But here's another thing. He doesn't own any property. He used to, and he decided that he didn't like being the owner. He just wanted to be the manager. And, there's pros and cons there, Greg, to people that would be managers that own and those who don't. but he's just really, really passionate about management. He likes dealing with people. I like dealing with people when I'm buying, but not when they're
not when I'm managing. Yeah,
not
dude,
whenever they're paying rent. Yeah, exactly.
It's not profitable. It's not a profitable conversation.
And it's hard to have all the proper systems and processes in place whenever you have a bunch of other systems and processes for all your other businesses. You just get spread
two different businesses, dude. Two different
definitely.
Businesses. 100%.
So that's kind of, that would be my advice to people is you just find a really good property manager, and that may mean going through a couple, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can find one on your first shot, but what we have worked out is great. And then he's also a stickler. Like he is very, very OCD, which if you walk into a property manager's office or you go to meet
one, it looks like a bomb went off inside.
Do not hire them. You want to find the most organized person possible. So and what I mean by that is, he's charging late fees to people. If, something breaks that, is clearly damage, we'll fix it, but then he bills them back for it. Whereas I probably wouldn't. I would just be like, oh, it broke. Like, well, it worked whenever you leased it. So he's very, very good about charging the tenants, for the maintenance and, getting reimbursed for the stuff that we have to go fix. That's not just, typical wear and tear. And then on top of that, if they're late, he makes it very well clear to them that there's a cost to be late, which not only incentivizes them to pay on time, but he doesn't keep any of the late fees, and the late fees aren't subject to the monthly, 8, 10, 12%. We get 100% of that. Right.
So you guys are rowing the boat in the same direction.
Yeah, exactly. So it incentivizes him to, get the rent on time, because he only takes 8% in this case of what's collected. So if it's, not collected, he doesn't get paid on it. So he's very, very adamant about getting the rent, making sure the tenants pay on time.
Yeah. That sounds like a match made in heaven, man, on your rental side, because I think that's what I got to do. The challenge with my first few ones were that I bought them sight unseen with dog tenants. That's how I got the price. So they were already losing money and not profitable. So I was like, oh, I might as well just step in here now. And it's been like hell on earth with especially one of them. I mean, my new thing is I never tell the tenants that I'm the owner.
And that's another thing, man. Whenever I was doing it for the first 10 years, they all knew that, so it's like one guy would call, for example, and just say, hey, I just lost my job, but I got another one, but I'm not going to get paid for 3 or 4 weeks.
Oh,
can you give me, a discount this month, or, can I make it up later?
Yeah.
And, just being the nice guy that I am, I would just always say
yes.
Yeah,
sure.
And this new property manager, he'll work with somebody. There's a definitely difference between, being an a-hole and working with somebody. He'll work with them, but a lease is a lease. So if you're late, we'll work with you, but there's going to be a cost to work with you to give you some sort of, working arrangement. There's going to be a cost.
There's fees.
He's just adamant about it, and also he lets it know that he is the property manager, not the owner. And whenever the tenant has issues, he can't make the final decision, even though he does most of the time. He doesn't tell them that, he'll say, I got to go back to the owner. And then he'll usually not go to the owner and just make the executive decision. We tell him to, of course.
But
then he'll just go back and say, I talked to the owner and the owner said no. So sorry. Period.
Sorry.
Dude, if you don't like it at the end of the lease, you can go somewhere else.
You can go somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, I love that.
That's my advice on property management. We still have issues though, Greg. I mean, this is definitely not, a business that is going to, consistently run smooth. You're going to have hiccups. You're going to have issues. But again, that's why I outsourced it and let him do it. He's a pro at it. He does it all day, every day. He knows what to do. My business is focused on acquiring rentals, doing a couple fix and flips, and wholesaling. It's really a direct to marketing business that we then keep the best and wholesale the rest type of thing. I don't want to be getting calls from these tenants. So that's why, I deal with the property. And again, he deals with the people.
No, that makes a ton of sense. That makes a ton of sense, man. That was very helpful for listeners, for me. I got to just get out of the day. That's the thing where I got to just I got to separate myself, because that's not my unique ability. And that's the thing. And I get sucked in. Like, I'll give you an example. This is a fun one. And then I know you got to go in a couple minutes. So I want to,
I got 10, 15.
Okay. So I bought this, my first burr, I did a reverse burr. So I bought the property sight unseen, bad tenants, like they're paying like half off of what market is. And this property has major problems. And they knew that, I knew that. I'm like, listen, I knocked on their door. I should have never told them I was the owner. I told them I was the owner, started collecting rent again. And then all of a sudden they start calling me for problems. And I'm like, listen, like this is property as a fixer, like obviously, and they wanted to move out, but they had nowhere to go. And there's this COVID more eviction thingamajiggy.
So you're up in New York, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
not
way
a great landlord. Yeah. Yeah. So long story short, I mean, they're just constantly harassing me, berating me, blowing my phone up. The pest control is there every 2 weeks. There's raccoons in the attic. It's a nightmare. And I'm like telling my friend who has tons of free and clear rentals, I'm like, dude, how do you like the rental business? I can go do a wholesale deal and make $50,000 and no one ever bothers me again. I got these stupid tenants bothering me over $900 a month. And I got a raccoon guy in the attic getting bit. I said, what am I missing here? So the point of that is, yeah, dude,
oh, man.
Dude, it's a disaster. They sent me pictures of the raccoons. There's like the guy, the tenant texted me yesterday. He goes, "There's a raccoon on my deck." I go, Roy, the raccoon is outside. Of course, it's on the deck. Is it in your? I always ask him a question. Is it in the house?
Is it in the house?
Living room? No.
Yeah.
So why are we on the phone? Oh,
yeah.
Man. Yeah. So the point of that is I get sucked into the drama, and then it takes my energy up. I get frustrated, and then I start complaining. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I need to, once these tenants move on, which they're hopefully going soon, get the thing renovated, turn it over to a property manager, and never touch it again. Just
that's what I recommend.
That's the thing. I'm too involved in the drama. You know, have you ever gotten like that with tenants where you get involved and then you're like,
way too many times, Greg. And that's why I don't do it anymore. Yeah. Hey, one piece of advice though, whenever you're hiring your property manager, not necessarily you, Greg, but anybody that's listening, don't just pass it off to them and forget about it. You have to manage that property manager.
Yeah.
They're managing the tenants and the rent collections and maintenance and stuff like that. Right. But you need to still manage them. And if you don't set, proper expectations with the property manager, they are going to run it into the ground. They have really no, I don't want to say incentive.
They don't have skin in the game.
They don't have skin in the game. That's what I'm looking for. They don't have skin in the game.
They have no skin in the game.
Yeah. So, but if you can, have a weekly or monthly, I think we do every other week. We'll hop on a call with our manager. We set aside an hour, but it usually only takes 20 or 30 minutes. But you definitely want to manage the property manager and, keep in contact with them and, be proactive, especially about maintenance items, because, a $60 or $80 maintenance issue today could be a $4,000 fixed in a month from now. If
not done properly.
Yeah. Cause some tenants, man, they'll have like a leaky sink and it'll leak all the way through into the basement. But before you know it, the floor joist is rotten. And it's like, man, that's a $3,000 or $4,000 fix in some cases. Yep. Whereas I could go fix the leaky faucet for $45.
Yep.
So you want to definitely be proactive when it comes to the maintenance and manage the property manager.
Totally, man. This is like a masterclass on what to do with rental. I love this stuff, man. Well, I mean, between this episode and the episode you did earlier, I mean, you have just dropped a tremendous amount of value on the Pave the Way in the Pave the Way world. So I always appreciate you coming on as a guest.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I definitely, I think we both got shows in like, 7 minutes or whatever. So we will try to wrap up now. But if people want to get in touch with you, you got a phenomenal podcast called the Discount Property Investor Podcast. So besides that, what is the best way for people to get a hold of you besides listening to your great podcast?
I would say the, Instagram, David Allen Dodge, ALAN is my middle name, is a great place to connect with me. And that's probably it, man. That's kind of my go-to social. I like that one the best. Again, Discount Property Investor Podcast as well too.
Love it. He's got a great show. Everyone's got to go check it out. He's got great guests on there. And
we'll have to get you back on there again.
Yeah, let me know, man. I'd be happy to come back on. I love that. Was a great show we did on the lawyers in New York.
That's right. The double
double
lawyers
quotes,
and
yeah.
the different processes, because we don't have to deal with that here. But
no, it's another animal up there.
That's right.
Sure. But listen, David, always a pleasure talking to you, buddy. I hope you have a great day. And I guarantee the listeners got a lot of value from this.
Thanks for having me, Greg. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Pave the Way Podcast. We hope you got value from today's episode. Make sure you download Greg's free guide on daily personal productivity for free at www.pavetheday.com. That's Pave the Day, spelled DAY.com. If you have any questions or want to reach out, head over to www.pavethewaypodcast.com. We'll see you on the next episode.